another episode of Mind Over Masculinity, the podcast where we go beyond bravado, strip down the facade of success, and get real about what it means to lead with the heart, presence, and purpose in a world that still rewards the opposite. I'm your host, Avik, and today's guest is Vince Covino. So, welcome to the show, Vince.
As always, it's good to be here, Vic. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vince, for joining us today. And before we dive deep into the topic, I'll quickly love to introduce you to all the listeners. Dear listeners, Vince has lived both sides of the story. Like, he built $100 million company, faced public scrutiny, walked away from a religion he followed for 47 years, and most importantly, he came back to himself. Yeah, so he is now the visionary CEO of Warrior Sage, where he guides leaders to scale not just businesses, but themselves. So his journey from the false prophets to authentic power is one every high performer, entrepreneur, and spiritually curious man needs to hear. And let's get into the truth about scaling, surrender, and self mastery. So, welcome to the show again, Vince.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Let's dig in. These are the topics I love. They light me up, This is what
Yeah,
I like to talk about.
exactly. So Vince, like you built an empire, definitely. Then Wall Street collapse, and so what did success looks like to you, before it all fell apart? Like, how was the definition changed today?
What a great question. So for me, there were two ways that I defined success. I looked at my self-worth and my contribution to the world as first, how am I showing up as a Mormon? Am I, spreading the gospel of Mormonism?
Hmm.
Am I, a leader and a positive example of that,
Hmm.
of those beliefs? And that was the first one. The
Hmm.
second one was simply how big was my business? How much money did I make?
Hmm.
And that is really, in my mind, the way I perceive my programming
Hmm.
was that's how I grew up. And the people that were admired most, they were leaders in the church and they were wealthy. And they were just, the higher you were in leadership and the more money that you had, the more respect you had, the more value that you brought to the circle. And so that's what I sought after. And I, was, I suppose, pretty successful in both of those
Hmm.
dimensions. And then when the church, when I basically determined it for myself that the church that I belonged to was not
Hmm.
true, didn't have, foundation for historical evidence or that it wasn't rational to me when I studied history and studied the history of the church. That fell
Hmm.
apart. When that fell apart, of course, I lost my identity. Why am I here? All my certainty. I was
Oh.
sure that it was all true. So that fell apart. And, I had to go in and say, okay, wait a minute. Then why am I here? What am I doing here?
Hmm.
What should I do with my time? And how much time do I even have left? And what happens when we die? Uh, so that took me through a beautiful journey. I actually videoed myself for journal entries, and I have about 50 journal entries. I go back and look at what my
Mhm.
experience was, what I was thinking, what I was feeling, and it is intense. I have great empathy for the Vince that traveled through those moments. It was harder than anything I had ever done in my life.
Hmm.
Incidentally, around the same time COVID hit, and when COVID hit,
Yeah.
I had to close down several of my well, actually, when COVID hit, I had to
Hmm.
close all of my businesses, but 7 or 8 of them did not recover. And these were businesses that were very successful with millions
Hmm.
of customers. So that, that also helped me to redefine what was important to me, what my legacy would be, what my life would be about, how my value for my own self-worth would be derived. And that all radically transformed over basically 2022. 2022 is really the year that it all changed for me.
Understood. That's really, really awesome, I have to say. And uh, like so many men are actually sprinting towards a finish line that's not even theirs. I mean, but what you just said, like that's the permission, uh, the slip to pause, like breathe, ask, like why I'm chasing this in the first place. I mean, what do you have to say on this?
It's the script that we were given, especially in Western culture. This is what a man does. He's not vulnerable. He
Mm,
goes out and really he's not even authentic. He puts
mm,
on a face, he pretends he's strong, he shows this image, and it's a
mm,
facade. You said earlier in the
yeah,
intro, the
yeah,
facade. It's a mask. And when you're showing up in life with a mask on
mm,
or with an avatar,
yeah,
it is a shadow of you. It's not you. And so if you're loved or honored or appreciated, they're appreciating this identity that you just created out of thin air that is not really your authentic self.
mhm,
And so it doesn't feel like being loved.
yep,
When I experienced true, deep, authentic love for the first time was when I came to understand who I am and love
mm,
myself, which was as a 48-year-old.
okay,
And that flipped the domino that allowed me to see others completely differently, employees, children, spouse, friends, and my heart just was fully drawn out, and I had immense love, understanding, and empathy for really everyone around me. Even when COVID hit and there was a lot of
mm,
sabotage and a lot of espionage against my company
yeah,
from animal rights groups and so forth, I over over a period of time and over a period of processes came to a place of deep empathy and understanding and love for them, even respect in certain elements, uh, for their convictions and their courage, and that just changed my whole my whole life. Everything changed in that year or two, and it continues to evolve in really beautiful
mm,
ways. But I can tell you this: life in this way is pure joy. Whereas life where I had it before, it was a grind. I was burned out. I have to do it. Once I get there, once this happens, I'll get this. Once I get a seven figure exit, I'll get this. I got that. Once I get an 8 figure exit,
yeah,
I'll have this. I got that. Once I have 500 employees, did that. Once I have an airplane in a 9,000 square foot home, once I have a dozen cars, I did all
mm,
of it. And it didn't make me any happier. Well, then I realized, wait a minute, you could win the lottery and a year later, you're right back
yeah,
at the same baseline happiness you were at. You could
mm,
paralyze yourself and become a paraplegic like one of my very good friends did, and a year later you're right back at your baseline. So the only joy that lasts is not
mm,
external. It's not in developing a business, not in creating freedom, but the script that we've received in Western society is so compelling and so strong and so indoctrinated so
mm,
deeply into our being that most of us don't believe it until we've lost something that's more important.
mm. That's true. Very, very true. Yeah. Thanks for explaining this. And uh, I mean, also I have to, I mean, ask you this: like, you have led over like 500 employees in hindsight. So, what's one thing that you wish you had done differently as a leader, especially in the early days of scaling Sequest?
Yeah, I was allergic to
Okay.
criticism, and most business owners are, and they don't know it. They're in a state of denial
Mm,
about it, but they're not currently, for the most part, as I wasn't, capable of receiving feedback, criticism, ideas, and I was sure that I was capable of doing that and listening and understanding. I
yeah.
really wasn't. Now that I understand what understanding looks like at the heart level, at the body level, where I'm truly seeing somebody as if I'm then, where I'm not just, okay, I understand why you think that way. You think that way because with this and this and this, but actually feeling their world, experiencing
Mm,
through their eyes. I think it was Henry Longfellow that said, if you could look into the heart, the secret
yeah.
chambers, I think he said. If you look in the secret chambers of even your most stern enemy, you would find therein enough sadness and heartache
Okay.
to disarm all hostility.
Mm,
What I wish I could have learned earlier in my career that now serves me very well is my capacity to be able to look at somebody, look at a situation, see them see their challenge, see how they feel,
mm,
and that changes how I'm able to serve them, how I'm able to mentor them, how I'm able to
mm,
create alignment in my business or my friendships or my family. And I couldn't do that before. It was there's just too much ego to do that, and I didn't recognize that's what it was. But that's what once you see it, you can't unsee it. But that's what it is.
that's true. That's very true. So, like, um, I mean, what do you believe? Like, men misunderstood most about the power, especially when they step into leadership.
Yeah, I think most business owners that are very ambitious, if they really examine, they're going to hear this and think this is crazy. And if you had told me this 5 years ago, I would have said you're really dumb. That's what I would have said.
Okay.
And that is most super ambitious men are seeking external validation.
Mhm,
Very often that seek of freedom, it's elusive. It evades them because the seeking is not external. It's
mm,
within, it's in meditation, it's in shadow work. It's in awareness and a consciousness of who I am and what my gifts are and what I'm really here to do, who I'm really here to serve, and how I'm here to give those gifts away. It's a total different shift in the paradigm of how you see your life and your mission, why
mhm.
you're here on the planet. Doesn't mean that I'm here because God sent me here. I'm not saying that at all. I don't look
Yeah.
at it that way. I'm looking at saying the best way that you can have lasting joy
Mm,
is not to become a billionaire. It's great because those means can expand your meaning. So it is great to become a billionaire.
mm,
But for most people, creating money does not create happiness. It doesn't eliminate the resentment and the betrayals and the anger and the lack of ability to regulate their own nervous systems and the relationships of the people around them.
mhm,
It's in internal work, identifying the emotions that we're feeling, the experience that we're having, and then coming to understand that that is the treasure map. The treasure map isn't the $100 million exit. Those are great. They expand your vision.
yeah.
They create experiences, but the treasure map is, why am I feeling this way? Why am I triggered? Why am I upset? And then if you really dig in deep enough, it takes an immense amount of work. But you dig in deep enough and you understand it's something in you that is unresolved and that there's a process to unresolve that. I'm sorry, to resolve that.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Wow. And mm, so, like, looking back, what was the emotional toll of performing the successful CEO uh, while feeling like spiritually disconnected inside? What do you have to say?
Let me, the sound just went a little loud. Kim, can you shut that door for me? Sorry about that. Someone just let my dog in. Can you give me the question one more time?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like looking back, what do you say about the emotional toll of performing the successful CEO while at the same time feeling spiritually disconnected from inside?
Well, interestingly enough, I felt very spiritually connected through my church, and it was great. I honestly feared when I found out the church wasn't true that I would lose that, and fortunately, it only got better, and so my spiritual connection is only deeper, and I thought that would go away with belief, and it didn't. It only got amplified, and it became much more clear. As far as there was definitely a nudging that I could be doing
Mm,
more. I could be giving out my gift in a more expansive way, and I wasn't. And I believe that I wasn't doing it because the scripts that I was following
mm,
said, do it this way. And so that's the way I did it. And now that I don't have those scripts, I'm outside the matrix and saying, oh,
mm,
I could play my music anyway and then really feel into what that would look like and use my business mastery to say how can I apply that to my gifts as
mm,
of me as an individual. And so I would say there was something that was tugging at me, in those days, and now it's not tugging at me, now it's fueling me.
Mm-hmm.
So huge shift.
Amazing, amazing. And so, what advice do you have for men who are actually silently burning out behind the mask of success?
Should go find an incredible mentor with depth and energy.
Mhm.
Find a mentor who can penetrate your heart with truth and tear down the wall, the armor, the facade, and get you right to your core of your being and work with you on that. That mentor that has the capacity to do that, like we do in our mastermind for very successful, got a couple billionaires in our mastermind. And that's part of the work for every man and every woman. So I would say find that person or find those mentors that that truly they live life in their relationships and the way that they um, make your nervous system feel and the way they make you feel about
Mm.
yourself is one where that's who you want to become. That's someone you admire, and then you then hop on that path to say, I want to
Mm.
work on becoming the man that I admire, the man that I deeply respect.
Perfect. What definitely, I totally I love about this. And so like many men are exhausted by the performance, like uh and you were proving that rest isn't the weakness, it's the reclamation. So am I right? I mean, am I reiterating it correctly or not? I mean,
I missed just a word or two. Will you restate, please?
yeah, I said like many men are actually exhausted by all the performances and everything, but you proved that uh, all the rest of the men are not the weakness. It's kind of reclamation.
Yeah, I think most men are very often men suffer in silence. They're on an island
Yeah.
and they have the good days. And when they have the good days, they forgot that how
Mm.
deeply in despair and how sad they were and how heavy it was. And then it comes again. And then they forget about it. My point is the duration and the frequency and the length of each of those,
Mm.
the intensity of those sorts of experiences can be shortened drastically. They can be mitigated drastically. I think there's still always,
Mm.
challenges that come up, but you don't stay in a negative state for very long. You have tools that you learn to get you into a state where your mind and your heart are connected. You're not letting the outside world, the broader your influence, the more
Mm.
criticism you're going to have. There's just the cost of making an impact is the criticism you're going to receive. I've learned that over and over again in my life.
Yeah.
Uh, there's so much needless suffering
Mhm.
because of the maps we're looking at. They're orienting us as someone else's map, not our map.
Mm. Wow. Amazing. Yep. And also, like, if you could also rewrite one chapter of your past, not to erase it, but to teach it differently, then what would it be? And why? Yes.
Yeah. I would go back to anytime I opened a new location, I would come in and I would do training, and the training was aimed at impressing people.
Okay.
I would go back and I would aim to connect with them. The contact from
Mm.
heart to heart is the carrier wave of the message, of communication, of the thing that I want to instill. And I missed that, I think, to a large extent, because I was more worried about impressing people than mentoring, lifting, seeing, validating,
Mm.
recognizing.
Got it. Got it. And like, what do you want? What do you want, basically, every man listening to take away from your story today?
It's this. This sounds cliche, but
Mhm.
spend some time with this very thought.
Okay.
What happens in your life as you choose to lead closer to your heart? Just spend some time and sit with that question in quiet. Go to a quiet place, go to a grove, get your music on that puts you into a place where you feel deeply connected and centered, and just see what comes up when you literally meditate on that question. How does it affect your life? How does it affect your marriage, your children, the team that you serve, the customers that you serve when you lead with all your heart? That exercise will be all you need to point you in the right direction.
Wow, that's really perfect. I mean, that self-realization is very, very important, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow. I mean, yes, definitely. And also I just wanted to also understand one thing. Like what you say is a big departure from traditional business coaching. So what's the new masculine vision of leadership you are helping men step into today? So what do you say?
I would say it's one that's absent of ego.
Okay.
So the orientation isn't, I'm going to get mine, I'm going to go take over, which generally leads to greedy, manipulative, coercive outcomes versus true leadership in its highest form is transcendent of self. It seeks to lift and serve and bring joy, enhance the lives of other people around us. And here's the crazy thing about that.
Okay.
That is the only way
Hmm.
to truly succeed and have an epic life is to enhance the life of the people around you in beautiful ways, beautify their lives, beautify their relationships, love love and be loved. That is, it seems so simple, but that's the key to unlocking an absolutely epic, joy-filled life with no regrets, with no regrets.
Were amazing, lovely. Lovely wins. I mean, thank you so much for showing us that we can, I mean, that we can lose it all and still find everything that really matters. So, so you have led with honesty, humility, hard-earned wisdom, and that leadership redefined. So, thank you so much for sharing this. And uh, I have to say, like, for all the men who are listening right now, your failures don't define you, your titles don't complete you. The question comes is, are you ready to stop performing and start becoming? What do you say, Vince?
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it, Vic. I mean, that is the essence of it. It's just letting those words land. We get so busy, and
Yes.
we're generally in just an automatic, not a level of awareness. We're not leading from a place of high consciousness where we're
Hmm.
fully aware and holding space for all of the people around us and how we can serve them. That's a process. It takes time. It takes time alone, time in meditation. Most of us don't take time to do that. We're so busy, we're scrolling, we're answering messages, and we're robbing ourselves of the time, a critical time that we need to connect deeply with ourselves. Our relationship with ourselves is starved. It's neglected for most people.
Very true. Very, very true. Yep. So Vince, like if someone wants to connect with you, how they can connect?
VinceCovino.com or warriorsage.com.
Amazing. Amazing. So, dear listeners, follow Vince and Warrior Says. I'll put all the links into the show notes for easy reference. And get curious and get honest and give yourself that permission to start again. Just like Vince has already mentioned about, or he has already shared the advice. Like just uh, bring that realization, the self-realization. Feel in your body. So that is much important. So this is your host Avik signing off from Mind Over Masculinity. Stay awake, stay aligned, and stay human. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.